Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, Mark. Thank you to the Office of Career Services. Thank you all. Hello, Harvard Law School. I have spent so much time in Wasserstein, in your library, cramming for final exams. It's amazing to finally be here with you all in this room. I'm going to be sharing with you a topic that, as Sarah mentioned, is near and dear to my heart. I call them unspoken rules. Those little things that can separate those who get in and get ahead and others who stumble along like I did and end up having to learn so many of these things through trial and error. Over the course of my research with countless law firms, I've heard one resounding statement from law firms, which is that law school teaches you how to think like a lawyer, but not how to be a lawyer. All of those things, somehow, they just expect you to know. And what I've realized is that, well, these unspoken rules are passed down from parent to child, from older sibling to younger sibling, or from mentor to mentee, making for an unlevel playing field between, well, the insiders who get in and get ahead and the rest of us. So I'm here to serve you all. Hopefully you'll find this session useful. This is certainly stuff that I wish I had had when I was in your shoes not too long ago. Now, law school is busy. There's a lot of stress just permeating this college, this campus. And so I have a question for you all, which is, well, you've got exams, you've got lots of readings, you've got that curve that I've heard about. Now you've got the job search. So when it comes to the job search, I'm curious, what are you most nervous about? And go ahead, aim your camera phones at this QR code. For those of you who are sitting in the back, feel free to zoom in. I've tried it myself in the back. It should work. POLLEV.com/GORICK. For those of you who are privacy law enthusiasts, I'm not collecting any of your information. This is not getting tracked to you. I'm not sharing this. I'm not tracing who you are, where you're sitting in this room. Now, I don't want to lead the witness. I'm just going to hold tight, hang tight, and let the responses come through until we start getting to the bottom. Well, we're starting to see some responses here. Getting one, not knowing what to expect. Hopefully I can be useful for that. Grades. Choosing something that I'll like, not getting a job, interviews, not being able to tell law firms apart and distinguishing them, not sure what I want to do as a lawyer or in life, having a fulfilling summer experience, interviews. Well, as you're looking at this, what I hope is that you'll take away really just one thing, which is, well, if you feel alone, if you feel stressed as you're putting together those applications or trying to figure out how much time you should spend on, well, the recruiting process versus all the classes and readings that you have, that, well, that you're not alone. You're not alone. Now, I have another poll here, and it's this one. You all have so little time. I mean, we all have 24 hours in a day, and you can spend it on so many different things. Where do you spend your time? And so go ahead and let me know, what do you think it takes to succeed here at Harvard Law School? Is it about getting good grades? Is it about building relationships with professors, with alumni, with fellow students? Is it about attending events like this? Is it about participating in extracurriculars? And I was chatting with some folks at the BSA, and there was a hypothesis that had been rolling around, which was that, well, A would get the majority or plurality of votes. And I'm seeing that here, about a quarter of you saying, hey, that's really important. In fact, that's the one thing that matters here. I mean, all of you have had good grades. That's the one thing that you're able to do and do well. Well, my session here, we'll come back to this, but there's more to it. I'll just give it away slightly. Now, why? Why am I here? Well, it's because I want to give you the tools tonight to help you achieve your career goals, wherever they happen to be. And why me? Well, I was in your shoes not too long ago, and I've made it my life's work to try and democratize this information. Now, Sarah was so kind in sharing with you my serious bio. So if you went on to LinkedIn and you stalked me, and I hope all of you will stay in touch with me, you'll see that I graduated from Harvard. I started off in investment banking, ended up in management consulting, ended up returning to get my MBA, ended up writing a book, and now I'm teaching the Unspoken rules at UC Berkeley. But this is what you see on LinkedIn. What you don't see is this. me sitting at my desk on my first day in corporate America, setting up my Outlook, and realizing that my fellow intern had already met 3 of the senior partners at the firm. Fast forward several days, and this person ended up getting pulled into high-profile projects that weren't even advertised. So I hadn't even set up my laptop, and already I had felt behind. And then, well, fast forward several months, and the performance evaluations started rolling in. The first one said, Gorick needs to own his work. Simple sentence, short one. What did it mean to own my work? The second one came in, and it said, Gorick needs to be a bigger voice in meetings. I thought this was someone else's show. What did it mean to have a bigger voice? The third one came in that said that I should make fewer data dumps that didn't have a clear point. What did it mean to make a clear point? And I should be building deeper and broader relationships around the firm. What did it mean? I thought that doing my job was my job. What were all these other expectations that no one ever told me about? And this single question emerged in my head. And it was this one question of, am I alone, that led to me interviewing over 500 professionals across geographies, industries, and job types, including in public interest law as well as in big law, to unpack what others wish someone could have told them about how to survive and thrive. And what I learned is, well, what I shared with you earlier, which is law school teaches you how to think about the law, but not necessarily how to be a lawyer and to be a successful one. And this graphic basically encapsulates the feeling of everyone who has walked your shoes before, which is that there will be law firm partners who will, actually, I had this conversation just the other day with a senior managing partner who praised an associate for reading his mind. And so that's the type of environment that you're going to be walking into, whether it's in law or other professional services. And I want to be able to demystify some of these expectations for you. So what did I learn? Well, I want to tell you the story of Annie. Someone in big law actually works at a firm that may be represented here tonight. She joined big law as a new associate. And then fast forward, she got plucked to join a high-profile case that wasn't even advertised. So when I heard about this, I thought, well, what's going on? How did someone end up from going here to there, and especially in such a short period of time? It was a big black box to everyone in the firm, until I started systematically mapping out what this person did, which then started making a lot of sense. So the first step was she completed her work fully, accurately, and promptly, at which point I thought, okay, we're done. Interview over. That's all it takes to succeed. What I didn't realize was, well, that was just the first step. She was working remotely at the time, and she had already built a good reputation as being someone who was reliable, someone people could count on. But when she walked into the office for the first time, she decided to do something that no one else was doing, which was to walk the halls. And I've actually heard this term used at a number of firms. She walked the halls and she just knocked on the glass window to some of her colleagues and said, "Hi, I'm Annie. We had worked together, but I'd never actually gotten a chance to see you in person. Just wanted to put a face to a name, wanted to see you in 3 dimensions, and just basically introduce myself." And she then asked, "Hey, how is that project coming along? Would love to learn more about it. You mentioned that you're off to a wedding. How did that go?" And just started having that conversation. She then afterwards ended up sending a quick thank you email to the person, ended up saying to the individuals that she wanted to work with that I'd love to be an extra pair of hands if you're ever interested in working together. Love to hopefully hear from you again and to eventually work with you. Several weeks later, actually just 1 week later, she got invited and she responded right away, and just like that, she ended up getting onto this project. So I'm oversimplifying here. Success is not linear, and you will all have good days and bad days, good managers, bad managers. But like the stock market and all of its volatility, hopefully it'll all add up to an upward trajectory that is your career versus, well, this one. And all of you have that potential. So what did Annie understand that others did not? Well, she first followed through. Second, she broke the silence. Third, she had a conversation. Fourth, she followed up. And 5, she replied quickly. That's it. Now some of you are looking at this and thinking, well, that's not rocket science. Actually, that's the point. It's actually not rocket science. The thing is, what I didn't appreciate is that there's a lot of invisible work that we just don't observe. And we assume that someone who gets onto these high-profile assignments just got it out of luck or sheer willpower, when really there's, well, all of this invisible work that's, again, very basic, but not often implemented. And this became a habit of Annie's, and this is eventually how she got onto these cases that, well, no one ever really even knew about. And by the way, I'm here talking about the life that awaits you when you join a law firm, but while all of these steps are just as applicable to all of you tonight and in a recruiting context. Well, showing up, you registered for an employer event, you showed up on time, ready to engage, you will, hopefully, all of you approach different people and introduce yourselves. You'll ask open-ended questions and keep the conversation going. You'll send personalized follow-up emails within 24 hours, tonight, tomorrow morning. You'll get invited and you'll respond right away because people can't read your mind and don't know if you're not responding because you're not interested or because you're busy. And then you'll hopefully, all of you, get that offer from your top choice employer. So why did I ask this poll? Well, it's because it's a bad question. It's because all of these things matter. And actually, when it comes to A, that's what we traditionally think of as the only thing that matters in law school, when really there are other opportunities, B, C, D, E, F, and so many others, that allow you to put yourselves in the position of someone like Annie to break the ice, to have a conversation, to build a relationship, to follow through, to respond quickly, and to turn strangers into acquaintances, acquaintances into allies, allies into mentors, and mentors into sponsors, who will then, behind closed doors, bang on the table and say, I want to work with this person, let's give them the chance. So how do you do this? Let's get tactical. So when it comes to following through, well, one of the things that I hear about a lot, and unfortunately as millennials, as Gen Z, we have a lot that is going against us when it comes to, well, folks who've come before us, where they think that we're unreliable, they think we're entitled, and even just the smallest things that you can do can set yourself apart. And one litmus test that I personally use is, well, I ask myself, what is my whenever always statement? We all had that friend who you invite to a party who says they may or may not make it and then flakes on you last minute. Well, that happens in the professional world as well, and it gives our entire generation basically a bad reputation. Simply by following through and doing what you say you will do, you'll set yourself apart, just because the bar is so low. So what's your whatever always statement, whether it's among your friends or in a professional environment? Make sure that whatever that statement is in the eyes of other people really does resemble the one that you want others to remember. Now, when it comes to breaking the silence, curious, how many of you have been in this situation? It's you, someone else, silence. And then you're thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, get me out of here. Get me out of this awkwardness. Hands? So the reality is, I mean, neither of you want to be there, right? Both of you are just waiting for someone to break the ice and end your misery. How many of you have been in this situation? You, others, hi, whether it's you or the other person. Hi, silence. Yeah? Okay, I'm not alone. Well, here's the reality. You predicted it. No one wants to be there either. Third situation, 3 of 3. You, others. You want to leave. You don't know how to leave. You're desperate to leave. Or so either you desperately want to leave or you desperately want to enter into the conversation and you can't and you don't know how because the other person just won't shut up. Here's the reality. Well, actually, I've heard of many people who will say, well, you know what? This person isn't even engaging. I just have to fill the silence. Please end my misery. Well, breaking the silence. Simple stuff. Doesn't involve any equations. Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm Anne blank, and I'm focused on, interested in, I have a background in this. Nice to meet you. So if I were to say this for myself, hi, I'm Gorick Ng, and I'm an author, and I'm interested in leveling the playing field for others coming after me, entering into their first professional jobs. Nice to meet you. And then I'll ask a question. I'll say, hey, how's your evening going so far? Where are you coming from? How do you like Cambridge? And then I would say, loved your presentation. I loved the fireside chat that you held at this firm the other day. Loved hearing about your practice area. Didn't even know that you're working on this project, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Ask a question. Make a comment. That's it. So pick on Sarah for a moment. Hi, my name is Sarah Dana. I'm in 1L. And maybe I'm a recovering CS major who's now interested in intellectual property law or privacy law or something like that. Nice to meet you. So when it comes to a question, you might learn about someone ahead of time. Sometimes firms will send out bios. That's your chance to do some research behind the scenes so you have material to work with. Or you can eavesdrop on their conversation where they'll share a little bit more about themselves and you say, oh, I'm from the Midwest as well. What school did you go to? Winding down the conversation, that second awkward situation. See people doing this sometimes? Or this sometimes? Maybe not that dramatically, but you know what I mean. Or subtle cue of, I'm out of here. Or verbally, politely, you might give an out, which everyone knows is actually you wanting to exit the conversation, but let me not keep you. Or look ahead, where you say, what does the rest of your evening look like? What does the rest of your week look like? Or plan ahead. Oh, let's continue this conversation. I'd love to learn more about it. Or, whoa, this is so helpful. I'd love to stay in touch, which even just from the tone of my voice, you can kind of gauge that this conversation is over. Well, use whatever you want. Hopefully you find these helpful. Have a conversation. This one I had a lot more slides for, but honestly, if I were to just distill it down to its bare bones ingredients, it's ask questions, answer questions, keep the conversation going. Following up, thank you emails. I've toiled over this for hours and hours and hours on end. And there are good emails, there are bad emails, there are long emails, there are short emails. But if I were to just give you the basics, it's thank you. Hi, so-and-so. My name is so-and-so. I'm a 1L at Harvard Law School. Great meeting you at blank. Enjoyed our conversation about blank. Looking forward to staying in touch, blank. So what are you doing here? Well, you're writing a specific subject line. You're addressing others professionally. You're introducing yourself briefly. You're providing context concisely. And you're signing off respectfully. That's it. Again, not rocket science. All of you have this ability. Now, you can spice this up. You can add more information about what you talked about. If you're particularly interested in this firm and it might be your top choice, feel free to drop that into the conversation so they have a better sense of just how dedicated you are to their firm, to their practice area, et cetera. You can, for example, ask for an introduction. If, for example, in the conversation, people said, oh, you should totally meet with so-and-so. This is your chance to follow up, offer them a blurb that they can forward along. And just like that, you turn one relationship into two and more. So make this your own. Don't all send this email, but these are the basic building blocks. So replying quickly, this is a big one. Well, you, other people, silence. And this happens a lot, actually. I hear about this all the time when folks will message the other person. For example, your supervising attorney, for example, sends you a message and they don't hear back from you. And, well, they start wondering something, which is, are you not interested in this? Do you not care very much? Can I not rely on you? Did you lose your phone and your laptop? Can't get into your email account? What's going on? And people's minds just start wandering when you aren't responsive. And so, well, don't let others' minds wander. Reply as quickly as you can, because especially if someone is offering you a coffee chat, if someone's offering you an interview, you never know how many other people this individual may have interviewed, or rather are interested in. And so they don't know how interested you are. So if you really are interested, and maybe even if you aren't, there's some unspoken rules around leveraging offers and things like that, which is outside the scope of this talk here. But reply as quickly as you can, because I've heard of many situations before where a certain email was sent out to multiple people, limited slots, and the person who snoozes loses. So why? Why is all of this important in the first place? Well, in my book, I have a framework that is called the 3 C's. And they stand for competence, commitment, and compatibility. And the idea is this: the minute you show up, and this includes tonight's event, and the coffee chats you'll have, and the follow-up emails you'll have, and the interviews you'll have, and when you start in a new role, and you start meeting with clients, and you're supervising attorney, the people around you will be sizing you up, and they'll be asking themselves 3 questions. Question 1 is, can you do this job well? Can I trust that if I give you something, you'll get it done and do it well? The second question is, are you excited to be here? Are you invested in our team? Are you eager to help the team achieve its goals? And then finally, do you get along with us? And your job, frankly, all of our jobs, and this includes the global managing partner of your law firm, it's to convince the people around them, your clients, your colleagues. I've heard, by the way, that this applies just as much to dating life. That's outside of the scope of this. But use this framework as you will. Your job is to convince the people around you to answer yes to all 3 questions all the time. It's through these 3 C's that you build trust, that you unlock opportunity, and that you set yourself on the path to career success, whatever that happens to look like for you. Show that you can do the job well, and others will trust you with more important responsibilities. Show that you're committed and people want to invest in you. They'll see you as part of the future leadership bench of this firm. And, well, show that you can get along with others and people will want to work with you. In consulting, we used to call that the airport test back prior to the pandemic when we would travel a lot more. Your job is to convince people to answer these 3 questions in the positive. This is a quote that actually, I didn't put the name or the individual because I actually heard this. I've lost count of the number of associates that I've heard this from, where they'll get onto the job, they'll be called an attorney, they'll be called even sometimes a senior attorney, and they just still have no idea what this job even entails. And so, while hopefully the tools tonight will give you a better sense of how to navigate these unknown spaces, these unfamiliar spaces. But your job, at least for tonight and during the recruiting process here, is to take the path of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do this and you'll build relationships with people who will remember you and hopefully remember you fondly. And at the very end, you will, at best, get a job, get your top choice. And at worst, you'll build a relationship that you can call on for the rest of your career. I saw in the poll earlier that you might not be sure that this is what you want to do for the rest of your life. And that's okay. But what I've learned from all of this is that, well, your internship, your job, your relationship with this firm may be temporary, but the relationships that you build can and will last a lifetime if you nurture them well. So I'm curious. I gave you a lot of numbers and talking points and checklists and Mad Libs and fill in the blanks. Curious, what's one thing that you plan to do differently starting tomorrow, starting tonight? That person very clearly selected A. Be more social. Amazing, sending an email to someone. I can guarantee you that many of you will say that you'll send an email, but you actually won't. So those of you who actually follow through with that will, in fact, differentiate yourself. There's this knowing-doing gap. You know what you should do, but then very few people actually follow through. So for the few, you will, in fact, set yourself apart. Going out of your way to introduce yourself to people, replying immediately, breaking the silence, responding to emails more quickly. As someone who is the perfect storm of shy, introverted, and awkward, I can totally relate to this. So don't be fooled by the fact that I'm up here. It's taken quite a bit of work. Be more timely, asking questions, breaking the ice. So different things, different aspects of this presentation will resonate with different people, but I hope that all of you will continue to have a sense of humor and take away at least one thing that will help you get further faster in your career. So good luck. You'll all be great. And for those of you who are interested in one of these copies of the book, please fill out the survey that's now on each of your phones. If you, we'll pick 3 at random. We'll send you an email. The Office of Career Services will share it with you, and we'll be in touch. On the topic of staying in touch, feel free to slide into my DMs if you enjoyed any aspect of what I talked about tonight. Hopefully you'll tell a friend or colleague. Check out my book. Sign up for my email list, gorick.com, and connect with me on social media. And with that, I just want to thank you all. I wish you the best of luck, and I really do mean it when I say that I look forward to staying in touch with all of you. I was, prior to the session, a stranger. Hopefully I'll have a chance to interact with many of you tonight, and hopefully you'll apply so many of what I just talked about tonight between the two of us, because I sincerely do hope to be there as I follow in your careers, and I know that all of you will have successful ones. So with that, thank you very much. Good luck to you all. Stay in touch.